कैसे चलेगा? नेक्स्ट वाला कैसे चलेगा? Yeah, okay, fine, fine. A very good evening and Jai Hind to one and all the respected, all the respected teachers, participants, my colleagues and counterparts. Hello,
Yes, sir, you're audible, sir. You can start.
hello, hello. I would like to welcome you all to this very exclusive webinar on competency-based assessment in education. This is Uma Shankar Singh, Academic Director from Devghar. It's indeed a great pleasure to connect with you all worthy educators, learning officers, and the chief learning officers. You know, education is a very beautiful method and process to express the beauty of head, heart, and hands. When we talk about holistic education, which is the talk of the day as per the NEP 2020, this is very, very essential to all of us as educators to ensure that we are able to produce and prepare the children who are physically fit, mentally alert, emotionally balanced, technically proficient, globally smart, and much more. If you talk about the educations as per the vision of NEP 2020, we have to understand the shift of emphasis from rote learning to sustainable learning, competency-based learning. Gone are the days when we were given certain tasks to learn by heart and then to produce or reproduce in the examination hall. It's very important to understand the paradigm shift. Now there is a change of emphasis from content-based to competency-based learning and active to interactive. Education is not for revolutions, but it is for evolutions, wherein every child, every learner is given a scope and a space to grow by default. But the growth and development of a child can never take place, can never happen at all, unless we provide them autonomy, flexibility, individuality, and innovate and scope for innovations. So we have to see the how children can be understood as a potential divine. Every child has got a certain potential and passion to explore. So competency-based assessment talks about the competencies, talks about the ability. So what are the competencies? There is a question. There is a point to discuss as to what competency means and implies. Competency is just a set of skills, a set of caliber, an ability to do something on our own, to have some idea, to generate a new form of ideas. For example, when you go to the zoo, when you visit a zoo or visit a circus, you must have noted the competencies which are reflected by the creatures, even the human beings. If you talk about a blacksmith, goldsmith, gardener, farmer, and many more professionals, you will realize that every professional, every performer is equipped with certain skills that they make use of to get the work done. That is why NEP talks about vocational educations, talks about passion-oriented educations, talks about competency-based educations. But education has different dimensions. Only teaching alone is not enough and adequate unless we learn the ways and means to make correct way of evaluation, that is competency-based evaluation or assessment. Active, interactive, revolutions to evolutions. Lower order thinking is to higher order thinking skills. We all are aware of the fact that there are four basic pathways, four basic offshoots, four basic ideas about ideas, or you can say that the great objectives, four basic great objectives of education. That is knowledge, skills, that skills are synonymous with competencies, values, and attitude. So assessment gives a lot of space and scope for the teachers to apply the skills which children are taught. The skills should be applied, and applied knowledge is a wisdom. Applied knowledge becomes a vocational skills or employable skills. That is what the current industry or job industry demands. As I told you, even a farmer, blacksmith, even a gardener, even a peon, even a principal, or even any profession has got a certain professional skill set. But those skill sets cannot be complete unless we allow the skills to fulfill and meet the learning outcomes. That is why competency-based assessment talks about the learning outcomes. Mere learning objectives are not enough for imparting quality education. So we have to see how far we are able to adopt the process about the transactional methods and modus operandi to ensure that whatever the ideas or the information or the knowledge that we have gained have been converted into practice and performance. Suppose we talk about a small task like an essay on honesty, the best policy, ईमानदारी सर्वोत्तम नीति. We have taught this essay writing to our class children, and when the time comes of assessment, we have given them a task to write an essay on honesty, the best policy. He has achieved or secured 10 out of 10 marks, for example. But when we come to know that he had adopted unfair means, is it the proper assessment? Is it the purpose of education? Is it going to help us with the learning outcome? Simply not. That is why, as we have discussed a little while ago, that knowledge, skills, values, and attitude. Value-added education is very, very important. So whatever the things that we have taught the children, that should be utilized and applied. Now coming to competency-based educations, as we discussed, ability to do a work to meet the desired defined outcome. So this is very important for a teacher, for an educator, to define and decide the learning outcomes which we want the children to meet at the end of the course. And the learning outcomes or the impressions or effect which are visible in the approach, action, attitude, and behavior. Then only we can treat our assessment the correct one, the complete one. So, power, skills, passion, proficiency, creative thinking, inbuilt potential, all these are the terms and the things which form a set of skills. Legacy-based inherited skills are also there. Even, the carpenter, the snake charmer, the farmer, milkman, they do not, in fact, provide any formal education or the training to the children or the siblings with their kids. But they, by default, receive things. They, by default, get exposed to all these things in their day-to-day life when their parents are engaged in doing something. That is legacy-based inherited skills. So we have to understand that how, whenever we teach something, that teach something means we are not going to teach a topic, but we are going to teach a child. Always remember, if we are a tutor, if we are working in a coaching center, then we can talk about the subject or the topic to cover. So we don't have to become a coaching teacher, we have to become an educator. Well, teaching a subject is the job of a tutor. Teaching a child is the job of a teacher who works for the holistic development of a child. But when we talk about educators, educator is the one who teaches a child to create a beautiful world where all of us can live together with happiness and harmony. That is very important. That is what education talks about. That is what we talk about social intelligence. So all these are the qualities which have to be assessed at the end of the course. It is the process of gathering and evaluating information on what students know, understand, and can do. This can help students as well as educators to make an informed decision about the next steps in the education process. There are two kinds of assessment of students' learning used in different contexts. These are assessment plays a critical role in competency-based learning. The fundamental purpose of assessment in education is to establish and understand where learners are in an aspect of their learning at the time of assessment. This usually means establishing what they know, understand, and can do. So the traditional approach of curriculum-based assessment, that is content-based assessment, is no longer in practice, no longer in use, no longer in demand as per the norm of education, as per the vision of NEP 2020. So it focuses on whether skills have been attained and the content has been learned. That is about traditional approach curriculum based assessment. But on the other hand, competency based assessment focuses on whether the learner can apply the skills as we talked about and concepts that he or she has acquired and learned in competency based assessment. So children have to become honest in action, approach, attitude. So that is why I always, in fact, lay emphasis on fourth C, चिंतन, चेतना, चरित्र और चित्त. सोच को बदल सितारे बदल जाएंगे, नजर को बदल नजारे बदल जाएंगे, कश्ती को बदलने की जरूरत नहीं है, रुख यानी दिशा को बदलो, किनारे बदल. Direction is more important than speed. We don't have to feel concerned and worried about the speed, but we have to worry about the style. बच्चों के सोच, बच्चों की शैली, बच्चों की सहजता, बच्चों का सलीका, that is more important for us as an educator to ensure. Then only we can talk about competency-based education. Competency does not, in fact, simply imply, or it is not either say confined to academic skills, but all these skills, as we discussed, that mentally alert, physically fit, emotionally balanced, culturally advanced, globally conscious, technically proficient, professionally smart, and whatnot. So we have to see the learner can apply these skills and can concepts that he or she has acquired and learned. That is all about competency-based assessment. But we have to collect evidences, informations, so that we can give the children proper feedback for corrections. So competency-based education gives us a chance to understand the individual talent, understand an individual child, whether he or she is able to perform well, whether he or she is in fact good at a particular area, a specific area. So depending on the need of the time, need of the children, need of the level of intelligence, we have to formulate the teaching learning strategy. That is very important. So competency-based assessment is all about the improvement in the children, that is holistic improvement and development in the children, among the learners, which education demands, which NAP demands, which complete education, which ideal education demands. So when I was talking about Chintan, Chetana, awareness for self-awareness is very important. If children are not well aware of their own fitness, own health, happiness, state of mind, so education will go in the well. It will simply be futile and fruitless. So Chintan, Chetana, Charitra, education, the formation of character. As an example was cited earlier, that children have simply copied others, adopted unfair means, and he has got 10 out of 10 marks in honesty the best policy essay. The essay on honesty the best policy. It's all futile and fruitless. कोई फायदा उसका. Then chitta, chitti, the spiritual intelligence. So we have to ensure that at the end of the course, we have found or we have just made a transformation. Because education is all about social transformation, moral transformation, not only academic transformation. If you want the children to just be the topper of the town, topper of the city, only by getting secondary marks, this is not education. But there should be goodness, there should be happiness, there should be happy classroom. When the stress-free zone, children should feel happy. Children should feel at ease with their own selves. So that is very important. So improvement should be there. Now coming to the next part. This is also important to note and cite out to collect evidences. How to do that? How to complete and how to conduct that competency-based assessment. So you have to develop or collect information, evidence about the children. That may also be called as portfolio. Even you can develop a diary, a record, in which you can note or record the children's behavior, whether the children are good or cooperative, whether the children take care of the school property. So that is all about social skills, whether children mix up and mingle with the strangers, with the newcomers. So this is what competency talks about. It's not about only academic excellence as to how much one has got in mathematics, English, Hindi. It's all futile. That is why competency-based assessment and education talks about a shift, a change in emphasis from rote learning to competency-based education. So collect evidence about the performance and knowledge in a competency standard. A few assessment methods are emphasized in competency-based education, including performance-based, portfolio-based, and rubric-based evaluations. Evaluation against well-designed rubrics provides children with an indications of how well they perform. So we need to set a benchmark in standard so that children can have intra-company, not inter-company. You might be well acquainted with the CC activity that you do in the school, that intra-school competitions, intra-school competitions, intra-class competitions. Similarly, if you talk about multiple intelligence, you might be knowing that intra, that is self that is assessment. Children should be allowed to go for self-assessment, self-smart, body smart, linguistic smart. That is intra-competition. The children should be allowed or encouraged to make comparison with their own performance in the past. Then you can just set the standard. Then you can create a hierarchy of the learning, a level of the learnings. That is very important. Then students on what they need to do in improve and master the skills required. We have to set one target and what are the skills that we are going to teach the children. What are the skills during teaching and learning of a lesson which children must acquire after the lesson or at the end of the course. That is why we have competency-based assessment. And apart from that, development of a well-defined learning outcomes and objectives aligned with the pathways demonstrating progression of children. Learning is must in implementing a competency-based assessment. First we teach, then assess. So teaching and testing go side by side. We cannot set teaching apart from testing. That is why we have formative assessment. Even nowadays, we are going to adopt formative assessment methodology. That is learning, relearning, unlearning. We have to just decide, we have to just do a research and do a work as to where children are going to fail. What are the areas in children are not able to perform well? What are the learning gaps? So we have to understand the learning gaps, learning ability, learning style, learning stress, learning methods, learning approaches. There are many more things that we have to take into account when we teach a class as a group and teach a student as an individual. That is called need-based education. So we have to understand the style, the speed of learn, and depending on that, we can do the work or create a new teaching learning strategy as per the need of the child. That is called need-based education. Need of a child will vary. Needs of children vary from person to person. That is why teaching or educating a child is a very complex process. When you teach a subject, I told you we are a tutor. When we teach a child, we are a teacher. Teach a child for holistic development. But when we educate the children for social transformation, that is the job of an education, an educator. Yes. So this allows the students to express what they should know and be able to do. That is learning gaps. So every child should be treated spatially, and every child should be given utmost and optimum care to see whether they fail, whether they flop, whether they are going to catch up with the other children in performance and practice. So every child is very important for us. Apart from that, you also need to see applying competency-based education pedagogy to see that how we are going to create a change, create a transformation in the teaching, learning, practice, and pedagogy. So competency-based assessment has gained a recognition by the international education community, even the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD. Even there is a PISA test, which in fact conducted a survey of the schools of the world on the parameters of competencies. The competencies should always be there when we teach the children a lesson. It is not the lesson which matters. These are the competency set of skills, knowledge, values, and attitudes which have to be decoded by the teachers when they prepare lesson plan. So to track the progress throughout the school years, not just at the end of the grades 10 and 12. For the benefit of the children, competency assessment is very important. And the entire schooling system in planning improvement to schools and teaching learning process. All students will take school examinations in grade 3, 5. You know well about the shuffle. That is why government or the education department CB started the scheme of the shuffle to test the competencies of the children across the country, across the states, and across the district. A background. The measurement of student learning outcomes is important for improving quality of education. Once again, it is reiterated, it is emphasized that we have to see to what extent we are able to meet the defined learning outcomes. So before teaching, before we start, take up a lesson, deal with a topic in a class, in any subject, we have to announce, declare, or make the children and students well informed about the competencies, about the values, about knowledge, and about the attitudes which can be taught, which can be acquired by the students through a lesson, irrespective of any subject. So every lesson has certain parameters, every lesson has certain set of skills. So system level assessment, individual assessment for children, system level assessment or evaluations for schools, that is what Safal talks about. Individual assessment for pupils can be informative to give feedback to learners and teachers on their skills and progress, or they can be summative. So what I intend to say, we have to see that how we can keep one thing in mind, that children are going to acquire competencies. Children are going to, in fact, imbibe certain value, or we are going to inculcate moral values of the children so that Chintan, Chetana, Chaitra, and Chit can be the stress of education. Chintan, Chetana, Chaitra, that is very important. And for that, let me tell you that every child should be given 5 M's: मौका, मंच, माहौल और मार्गदर्शन. सबको मौका दिया. Every child should be given an opportunity to imagine, to innovate, to create, to regenerate. That is what competency talks about. But there are 3 types of competency: conscious competency, unconscious competency, and conscious incompetency. There are many children who are very good at learning, good at writing, but for certain reasons he doesn't feel motivated to take part in Hindi or English writing competition. Why? This is lack of motivations. So children need motivations. We have to do everything in such a way that children should be allowed to imagine, go for imaginations, go for creations, and that is what the that is what 21st century talks about: creativity, collaborations, critical thinking, and then and communications. Let the children communicate with each other. Let them cultivate a habit of mixing, mingling. That is learning by sharing. Unless they share their ideas with other ones, they cannot grow. So let them do the brainstorm. Let them rub their heads. But the role of the teachers here is very prominent, very important to see that how you can work shoulder to shoulder, hands in hands-on learning, minds-on learning. So conscious competency, for that we need to just see how children are given a space, and there is a formula, there is a method. So first of all, let every child be engaged. Engage the children. Then explore the potential and passion. That is what happens in Western country, Japan, in China even. Small kids are not taught any kind of. They are not allowed to just read and carry any books up to class 2. You must be knowing. But they are taught the lessons of life. They are taught certain skills in the open areas. There is no formal classroom. They are not required to stay confined in the 4 walls of the classrooms. They are taken outside the campus, of the campus learning. They are taken to the field and allowed or invited in the school to have discussions with the children so that they can have experiential learning. Experience is very important because teaching is all about a process, a method to create an experience, create an experience to create a condition that is conducive to learn. But teaching is not at all complete unless we ensure, unless we confirm and convince that yes, there is learning outcome, there is change in the behavior, improvement in the behavior, achar, action, and attitude. And for that, we have to do, first of all, we have to engage the children to explore their potential and passion. Then we have to explore. Then we also need to enthuse, fill them. That enthuse means we have to boost the morale of the children. We have to motivate the children for everything good and great that he is able to do on his own. Then we can also impart. Then we have to train. Impart means here we have to enrich the children. And CBSE has already issued a list of subject enrichment activity that is very important for us as teachers to work on. Competency based. CBSE has recently issued subject enrichment list of subject enrichment activities. So these are the ways and means, these are the methods which we have to apply, which we have to follow to make competency-based educations and assessment are successful. So SWOT analysis, that is what we do. SWOT analysis is strength, weakness, opportunity, and threats. The strength, weakness, we have to understand. As we discussed earlier, understand the style, the speed, aspirations, blocks, learning pattern of the children, learning process, okay, and the information that the children are already packed with. Set of core skills and competencies. There are certain that is typographical mistakes also. Sorry for that. So low degree competency, premature phase. So the children, as you know well, that CBSE has already divided or make a division of the schools into 5 parts. Montessori stage, Montessori stage children, they are having small habits, though the small habits become the solid ones. So even the child psychology says that by the time the children reach the age of 6, 80% of the brain develops. So that is why शिक्षा takes about संस्कार देना. बच्चों को संस्कार हमको देना शुरू से. So that they should be a part of the conditioning. That is called mental conditioning. I'm going to set an example of an elephant. आपने देखा होगा, you might have seen, witnessed in the circus. जो बड़े होते हैं, the big elephants, their legs are tied with a very small and very thin rope. But that is small, or that is baby elephants are tied with chain, iron chain, wires. Because the big elephant has still a perception or illusion in mind. His legs are still bound by or tied with that chain, that is iron chain. So he does not even try to free themselves. They don't try to free themselves from even a thin rope. एक पतली रस्सी बांधी जाती है उसकी पैर. So that is what I'm talking about. Foundational stage, LKG, UKG, nursery up to class 2. We have FLN also, foundational literacy and numeracy. So that is the best time when 80% of the brain of a child develops. That is the best time to sow the seed of sanskar. That is very important. पुनस्य भूषणम ज्ञान. तो गुण उसमें होना चाहिए. गुण की पूजा हो, संस्कार की. अभिवादन लक्ष्मण नित्यन विदुपसीमिनः चत्वारि तस्य वर्धन्ते और जैसे बोला बच्चों के संस्कार, मॉडल एजुकेशन की बात हमने, चिंतन, चेतना, चरित्र और चित्त की हमने बात. So that is very important. The tailing in premature phase, tailing becomes a negotiation skills when they reach the age of 14 or 16. When they go to the higher classes, that tailing becomes their negotiating skills. Searching becomes research. Understanding becomes evaluation and analysis. Bargaining becomes negotiation. Convincing becomes confidence. Right? Thinking becomes critical thinking. So what is mean to say? There is a level or hierarchy, a sequential series of the competency that we have to keep in mind as per the need of the age. That is phase-wise and age-wise. Now, general classification you can see. For academic, you can see That is LSRW, listening, speaking, reading, writing for language teachers, solving problems, following, explaining. These fall under academic skills. But academic skills are not adequate for making holistic development of children. That is why children should be taught and trained as to how they can draft, how they can learn advanced writing, how they can type out, how they can design thinking, professional skills, negotiate, convincing, organizing, that event management, instructing, planning, inspiring, comparing. These are the set of skills and competencies which we have to go for. At the end of the course, at the end of the lesson, or when the children graduate from the schools and colleges, they should have all these life skills. That is very important. Literacy skills, social skills, that is social literacy, civic literacy, legal literacy, political literacy, self-literacy. So these are literacies. Only academic literacy is not the thrust area of NEP 20 or any advanced educations. The motor skills, for small kids, we have to teach them fine motor skills and gross motor skills as to how they can manipulate the limbs, as to how they can manipulate the body parts to get their work done. Then thinking skills, that is very important. Lower order thinking skills and higher order thinking skills. We have to see at the end of the course whether children have been trained or children have developed into a creative thing, a critical thing, and analytical thing. So these are the things which we have to test, we have to try, we have to assess in evaluation. Then kinesthetic, when playing, dancing, drama, mind, muscular movement, and artistic also, singing, drawing. So these are the competency, artistic competence. That is very, very important. But we have to explore the passion and potential. So that is why we have to engage the children. If you want to teach fish to climb a tree, and हम चाहेंगे मछली को हम घास पर चढ़ना सीखना है, so we cannot do that. Your labor and time will go in vain. We cannot teach a fish to climb a tree. That will be worthless. We cannot teach a pig to sing. ये सुअर को हम गाना नहीं सिखा सकते. But we can teach a fish to swim properly in a well. कुआं में उसको सिखाएंगे. Then we can put him. We can just put him into a pond. तब तालाब में तुम तैरो भाई. उसके बाद then we can give them bigger platform. तुम जाओ नदी में तैरो, फिर कहेंगे समुद्र में तैरो. So we have to understand the passion potential that every being, every creature has got by default. अब क्रो को उड़ना आता है, तो क्रो को उड़ने की कला सिखाएं. क्रो को कहेंगे तुम रोड पर दौड़ो. We cannot do that. So that is why we have to engage the children to understand. We have to understand the children. But we have to see that पहले उसके दिल में उससे तब दिमाग. So that is why we have to do. We have to try hard to have an emotional connect with it. Scholastic competencies. Now coming to scholastic competencies. Earlier we talked about the competencies of various kinds, but the scholastic competency, that academic, I would say, LSRW, composing, framing. In science, we can do experiment. We can prepare and encourage children to conduct experiment, that is experiential learning, and assemble, mixing, dismantle, organize. These are the two competencies. Then SST, discover, mining, monitoring, maintaining, recognizing, classify, distribution. In computer, data handling, input, output, networking, command, and commerce, accounting, transactions, budgeting, financial impacting, asset assessment, and distribution, and many more. So these are the things, these are the qualities, these are the skills and competencies that we have to talk about, that we have to be concerned about. So in every lesson plan, we have to see how we are going to give a space to competency, how we are going to teach the children the competency, and the same set of competency will be tested, tried, and assessed. That is what we It was not there. Now, strategy cycle we discussed earlier. Engage, explore, infuse, empower, and enrich, and evaluate. These cycles are very important. And even CBSE or NEP has made our system so flexible that multilingualism. Up to class 5, we can teach the children in their own language, mother tongue. So CBSE or NEP has really brought about a great change, a radical change, which is very beneficial, which is really great for the children and teachers as well to follow and practice. That is very, very. So engaging is very important. So first engage our children. But we as educators and learning officers have to keep ourselves updated and equipped with the best pedagogical practice. So that is why we have annual pedagogical plan. So every school head or every school under CBSE is required to have an annual pedagogical plan APP, which will be posted on the website. So that is very, very important for us as educators to go for. Vishal, now how to integrate CBA, that is competency-based assessment. Am I audible? Kindly just send the message in the chat box. Kindly let me know whether I'm audible or not. Am I audible? Oh, thank you so much. Now coming to the integrations of CBA, CBE into curriculum. As we discussed earlier, that there is a paradigm shift or there is a shift or change in emphasis from rote learning to competency-based learning, content-based learning to competency-based learning, revolution to evolutions, active to interactive. No? So we have to see that how children are guided and groomed in such a way that they develop into a total quality person, TQP, total quality person. Ultimately, at the end of the course, we have to check the service of those children and their competencies will be put to use for the growth and development of the society and the nation as well. That is very, very important. So their competencies or their skills will be a contribution to the growth and development of the society in the nation. That is very important. So we can just have some examples of the work of the task that we can create for the children. In teaching practice process and pedagogy, prepare a person profile. Every child has got a certain talent, potential. So can we have in fact the person profile of every child? Even I can share with you people the person profile for every child has certain competence. So you can have some interactions, discuss with the parent. Parent will also allow us to know about the qualities. Every child is a potential. Create a project-based learning, PBL model, problem-based learning, create theme-based activities. These activities are very, very important for assessment, and you can have the portfolio. You can record as an evidence. That is what CBC wants. Now, CBC is very particular about competency-based assessment, so they will ask us to submit or send or forward these evidence. So these graphical evidences, audio-visual evidences can be preserved by our office, and then we can send the CBC that yes, we are moving ahead as per the demand, as per the demand of education, as per demand of any. So we can have symposium, we can have seminar, extempore, group task, even we can have mass work. Suppose we are teaching mathematics, so we can create a task for a small kid to go to the library and just count number of cubes, number of things which are circular, which are rectangular. Even on the floor, tiles, you can ask them to just create, just work out on the areas of the tile. There are 10 tiles, and then one tile has a particular area. Then they can multiply into that. My point of thought is that we have to see to what extent we can create activities. We can create offline activities or of campus activities for the children. That is creativity. I am going to show you one video. on creativity. Vishal, come here, please. Vishal. Take a video, sir. Desktop वीडियो का है वो डालूं नेक्स्ट ये जाएगा there. I am going to share a video. Please watch the video and let me know. Please show me this. ठीक है? ये करें ये करते छुपता है Vishal, come here, please. See the video. Is the video visible? Kindly write in the chat box and let me know.
Sir, visible, sir.
When I ask my students how many of you are creative, only a few raise their hands, some very timidly. For me, that's the biggest block to creativity. While creativity is not defined in an agreed way, people seem to have defined it in ways that exclude themselves. Usually the definition is about art and music, and they don't include thinking. That mindset is built by many factors. Habits, traditions, and values are part of it. A simple thing like folding your hands is an unconscious habit. Did you ever notice that you always do it the same way? The same thumb on top, same one underneath? If you unfold your hands and do it the other way, it isn't comfortable. It doesn't feel right. And yet, it accomplishes its
Yes, sir, audible, sir.
It's a habit.
Thank you so much.
Thinking in untraditional ways is also uncomfortable when it's new to you. Sharing ideas that you know you would never use seems wrong. And ideas off the beaten track of our values are particularly difficult to express. That experience is more like folding your arms, noticing which hand sticks up and which one down, and trying to do that the other way. Not only is it uncomfortable, but you have to really think about how to do it differently. In creative problem-solving sessions, ideas shoot out like popcorn from an open pan. This requires learned behavior, since we have rules in society about waiting your turn and not interrupting. In business circles, we're taught not to make waves, not upset the status quo. These traditions block creativity and potentially wonderful new ideas. They block change, the kind of change needed for sustainability in organizations. Our perceptions of what we see are colored by our emotions and our old tapes that tell us how the world should be. This causes us to look at new ideas, new concepts, new products, and even new foods with a severely critical eye, finding faults first and using them to block progress, learning, and growth. I bring candy back from Brazil sometimes, and it's surprising how many students are afraid to even try it, even when it's made by an American company because it looks different and has a different name. Culturally, we're blocked by the emphasis placed on logic, reason, social expectations, practicality, economics, competition, obedience, duty, customs, traditions, and role expectations. These are valued well above imagination, creativity, fantasy, individuality, and spontaneity. In school, there was always a right answer and an appropriate way to get that answer. The problem is, by having everything taught to you in a way that eliminates mistakes, you also eliminate thinking and the ability to weigh options and make good judgments. When faced with a new situation, you compare it with what you've known before. And if it doesn't fit the mold, it's hard to decide what to do. Making mistakes is how we learn to make judgments and decisions. I asked my students to discuss their strategic, perceptual, values-based, and self-image blocks to creativity, and discovered one of my own perceptual blocks. I saw blocks as things that stop us from being creative, and the students were writing some really positive things. Well, now I see there are also building blocks, things that help us be more creative, like practicing brainstorming, stopping premature judgment, taking some risks, being open to unusual ideas, having a flexible problem-solving process, accepting that error and ambiguity are part of life, and, most of all, believing in yourself and your ability to create.
स्टॉप कर दीजिए। कहाँ चाहिए पहला वाला नहीं चलेगा ना वो अब शेयर फिर दोबारा कर दो। Slides visible now? Slides are visible? Yeah. So there are certain blocks to creativity. You have to see that while teaching.
Yes, sir. Visible, sir. Visible.
Okay, fine. So while teaching or educating children, we have to see to what extent, how far we have been able to make the children creative and critical, so that they can acquire the higher order thinking skills. They should be given proper space and scope for working out, for creating imaginations, for creating a new set of ideas, new format of ideas, by experimenting, by assembling, by mixing, by composing, by data handling, by discovery. So that children should be given a lot of opportunities, a lot of scope, and a great platform to learn by doing, to learn by activity, to learn by trial and error method. Let them make a mistake. Children, if they are going to make a mistake, it means they are trying hard to get something done. So every mistake is a chance for them to make the right decisions. So mistake is a boon for the children. Let them commit a mistake and then come up with the better ideas to create something new that is all about innovations, all about that is inventions. Let them be inventive. So this is all about competency-based educations. If you have any questions, any queries in mind, I would love to take your questions and to respond. If there is still something in mind, you can ask. You can unmute yourself. Abhishek sir, you may monitor that. In the case
Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, thank you so much, my respected teachers, my friends, my colleagues, my learning partners. I'm so happy to meet such a beautiful gathering of teachers from across Bihar and Jharkhand. I can see here more than 2,100 something have joined us. I'm so happy. You always keep me boosting my morale. I'm so thankful to all of you, and especially to Honorable President Subhashri Sarkar Ma'am, all the officials of Jamshedpur Sahab Sahodia, for giving me a chance and opportunity to have interactive sessions, which is in fact a time for me to learn from you as well. Thank you very much. God bless you all. आप लोग अपना ख्याल रखें, टेक गुड केयर ऑफ हेल्थ एंड हैप्पीनेस. गॉड ब्लेस यू ऑल. थैंक यू so much.
Thank you,
Abhishek
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you. हाँ, sir.
Fine. The session gets over here. Thank you so
Yes.
much.